Hello and welcome to another Bookish avec moi, and this week I'm going to talk about random stuff. Anyway, what have I finished this week? I actually finished one book this week, but it's for the Booker Prize, so I am not going to talk about that, unfortunately, this time around. But I am going to talk about that book in a video I would hopefully make in April or sometime after the results of the Opta finals is announced. So anyway, finished one book this week, and I am also currently reading a few books, and that include 3 books of the Booker Prize, which I definitely am not going to talk about also. I'm also currently reading this one, a group read hosted by Sarah of Hardcover Hearts for the Seasonal Quartet by Alice Smith. This one is Summer, and I actually start late with this one. So I think I'm still in the first section. So a bit late, delayed. So, but I think that it's pretty nice. It has a similar tone as her first 3 books, although I feel that Summer is probably a little bit more heavy-handed, but I'm still at the beginning, so I think it's too early to give up too much judgment on that. I am also currently reading this book by Nawal el-Saadawi. This is called The Fall of the Imam, and this one is translated by Sherif Hetata from Arabic. And another one that I'm currently reading includes Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. So what I realized is that with Freshwater and also The Fall of the Imam is that these 2 books are books that I cannot sprint through. Like, reading fast is not an option for me with these books. It just does not work, because with these books, language is, I think it's really important. There is so much emphasis on the way that the language is constructed in here, and so for me, in my opinion, the only way to read these 2 books is to read them slowly, because I find that if I were to read them just a little faster, I start to enjoy them less. I start to appreciate them less. So these books, even though they are fairly thin, I think I need to read them very slowly. So, not gonna say much about these 2 books because I'm still fairly at the beginning, so I don't really have, I have not really immersed myself in so much experience so far, but I think that the books that I can talk about right now, the ones that I'm currently reading that I can talk about, all of these books are just so has this really strong emphasis on language. So I think reading them slowly is the only option with these ones. So that's it for the books that I have finished. The books I'm currently reading, and it's only 3 minutes. Yeah, really short, right? Well, no. I actually have some of the things I kind of want to talk about. Well, first thing is that I just have this recent realization. By recent, I mean last week. By last week, I mean yesterday. I can't remember. But anyway, I just feel like lately I've been, when I read books and when I enjoy books, I find that I have focused a bit more on the execution of the book, on how the book is written, whether the book is well written or badly written, or stuff like that. And if it's badly written, and then I would consider whether I want to DNF it or not. Chances are I would DNF them. And when I thought about it, it kind of made me realize that it feels like there's something that I missed out on, because before this, couple of years ago, I would not DNF. I would actually finish every book, and every time I finish a book, there is still this sense of satisfaction, because I like finishing books. By the time I arrive at the final page of a book, I would feel so nice, so satisfied, because it seems like I have finished a journey of some sorts, even though the book is kind of bad. And so when I DNF, I miss out on that experience. But it doesn't mean that I don't find any value in DNF. I will still DNF. That's for sure. But one thing that I realize is that when I focus too much on the execution and the writing style, there is something that I miss out on, and that is something that happens before the book. The intention of the book. Every book that is created, it is created with some sort of intention or motivation by the author. There is something that the author wants to convey by writing that book. And that intention is there. And whether that book is written successfully or not, whether that book is written well or badly, that's another story. But before that book came into its physical form, its final form, there was this idea, there was this intention. And I think that if I were to focus so much on the physical side of the book, on how the book is presented in its final form, then somehow I kind of miss out on the reason of being for that book, the raison d'être. But yeah, that is actually something that I would think about from time to time before I actually focus so much on the way the book is written. And so whenever I finish a book, even if a book is written badly, I will feel good about it. I will feel satisfied. And then I would kind of still think about why this book was written, and perhaps, when you get to know more a bit about the author and the setting of the book, when this book was written, you start to get more and more experience from there. What I want to say is that after this realization, I just kind of want to try a bit harder, I suppose, to appreciate a book, and not just to look at a book based on how it is presented to me. And because I feel like I'm losing out on something. I missed out on something that I used to appreciate and enjoy. And yeah, I guess that's it for the things that I want to say on this particular topic. So aside from that, I also want to talk about something else that happened this week, and that is book hauls. I have had like a fairly big haul, I would say, and I think after this series of hauls, I'm not going to buy any more books, because, and by that I mean I'm not going to buy any more books for maybe 1 month. I'm gonna give it 1 month, okay? So wish me luck. But yeah, this is a fairly big haul. All of these books were sold fairly cheap because most of them were second-hand books. So I'm really, really happy about this. So I just kind of want to show you what books that I got, and I think this is this big haul is kind of like a preemptive reward of finishing many books in a month. Last month I think I finished like 5 books, which is fairly a large amount for me. And I think this month in March I expect to finish at least 6 because of Book to Prize. There will be, I don't know, 3 to 4 more books that I could finish this month. So that would be about like 8 to 10 books hopefully. And these books are kind of like the reward for things that have not come to fruition yet. But in any case, in April, or at least starting from this date, and probably up until April, I'm not going to buy any more books because I don't have enough space in my room. I mean, I have space, but it turns into clutter, So yes, I'm gonna slow down with the book buying. But yes, now it's the time for me to talk about the books that I bought. So I actually got a few hardcovers, which is lovely. I love hardcovers. and I have these paperbacks, used paperbacks that I bought from this particular store called Books and Bobs, which was a store, an online Malaysian store that I discovered in 2019. And I think ever since I discovered that store, my life has changed. And I just love that store so much. You know, most of the books that I bought this time came from that store. And the first book that I got was this one by Susan Fromberg Schaeffer. And this one is called The Madness of a Seduced Woman. And this is, I would say, the prime reason why I just love that store so much. I mean, there are plenty of other used bookstore, used bookseller that you can find online if you're Malaysian, if you live in Malaysia, particularly on Instagram, or you can also find some on Facebook. But I must say, most of the more interesting titles that I have acquired for myself came from Books and Bobs. So this is a prime example. I mean, look at this title, The Madness of a Seduced Woman. Oh my gosh. I just love this title so much. So don't be surprised if I actually decide to read this book within these few months, because I don't know, this just sounds so tantalizing. I mean, just look at this cover. Oh my gosh. So I think this book, the title is pretty straightforward. Another thing that I want to say beforehand is, with new books, I usually don't care about blurbs. So whenever I introduce a new book that I have not read, I would be like, you know, I would not be very informative when it comes to what the book is about, because I don't want to know what the book is about. I prefer to go into a book blind. That's it. I like to go into books blind. But anyway, this book I think is fairly straightforward. I think it's about this woman who is seduced, and she got mad. I mean, she becomes mad, I think. She becomes obsessed, I suppose. And then she kills someone, I think. Yeah, I think one of the plot points in this book is that she kills someone, or she becomes a murderess. I'm not sure. I think that's how it happens. It's a fairly thick book, so sounds pretty dramatic actually. But yeah, really interesting one. Many of the other books that I got from this haul is also kind of like domestic fiction. I have this one by Lamott. This one is All New People. Yeah, this has a fairly vague blurb, which I would rather not talk about. And if you have read this book, you would know what this book is about, of course. I don't know what this book is about, but let me think I just want to let you know what I think this book is about. This book is about person, and would this book be about a family? I think I'm not sure. I'm really bad with blurbs. Talking about blurbs, I think this is a prime example of a book that has no visible blurb at all. I tried really hard. I look at the back, no blurb, only reviews, excerpts, comments by, the New York Times book review. The front cover, nothing. Inside, nothing. Back cover, the inside of back cover, nothing. Like literally nothing. Nothing on this book is blurb-like or suggests what happens in this book. But I got this book anyway because I thought that it looks so interesting. It looks like the kind of book that I would read. This is by Jane Hamilton. I forgot to introduce this book. This is Jane Hamilton's The Book of Ruth. I don't know, I just feel like there's this strong sense that this book is a domestic fiction because, you don't have... this could pass as sci-fi, the title, but it just looks like domestic fiction with a cover, with a title, with the biblical allusions. Oh, Yeah. And it has a character named Dee. So, let me know if you know of any sci-fi books with characters named Dee. So, I would be really interested. This one is, I think, is a historical romance. Fairly well known. This is by Eileen Chang. This is called Last Caution. I got this one with a movie tie-in cover. This book was translated by Julia Lovell. So this is a short book. It's pretty much a short story actually. So if I were to finish this book, it would count into my Goodreads book number goal, and I think that would be kind of like cheating, but hey, it's a book, right? They decided to make this into a book, so counts as one book. The other one that I got is also a translated fiction, this one from French. I think this, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of this, the author. I forgot to research, but I've seen the name of the author around before. Maylis de Kerangal, I think that's how you pronounce it. This is called Men the Living. It was originally in French, and this book was translated into English by Jessica Moore. So this book has a fairly descriptive blurb, but still I'm not exactly sure what happens with this Simon Lambeau guy. He goes to the beach, and there's something about his heart, and there's something about life and death. You know, based on those keywords, it sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'm guessing that this guy is going to go surfing. Yeah, definitely. He's going to go surfing, I think. And there is some sort of, heart involved. The organ heart. I'm not sure what's going to happen. It sounds really mysterious, but yeah, And I love the title, Men the Living. Seriously, Men the Living. And then next one is a book that I've not heard of, but I think that the cover looks really sweet. This is by Katherine Heiny, Standard Deviation, which is about this guy and his second wife and his first wife. So, domestic fiction, typical stuff that I would read. And then, beautiful hardcover, my Australian author, I think she's Australian, Fiona McFarlane. This is The Night Guest. Really beautiful. This is about this woman who lives in an isolated beach house, and then one evening, I think there's a person who claims to be a care worker sent by the government. The blurb actually goes longer than that, but I think that's it. I don't want to know more. Because this one looks like a really interesting book with all these designs on the covers. This one, and it's about a woman who is supposedly a care worker from the government. So what does it have to do with this beast-like image, right? That's part of the appeal. There's a reason why the cover is like that. I hope it's congruous with what the story is. Yeah, I hope so. I've seen a lot of books with incongruous cover, so that's awful. Anyway, my haul is not finished yet. From the same store, I also got some Asian literature, which I really love. This is actually the second batch of the purchase that I got, because after I finished after I bought those books, then the store kind of rolled out new batch of books, and I found that there are some interesting titles from that new batch. So I bought some more, but I bought only 3, and the other 3 I actually bought from other store, which I'm going to talk about also. So the first one from the same store, Books and Bobs. This is Following the Wrong God Home by Katherine Lim. This author is Singaporean, and this story also takes place in Singapore. And this book is essentially about this woman who is going to be married to a guy who, a rich guy, and at the same time she is also in love with another guy who is kind of like an American professor. And I think the book is kind of about who she's going to choose. And I think there is also kind of like a side plot about this this family servant who wants to return the statue of a god to the rightful home. So I would be interested to see how that just kind of interwoven together, those two plots. I think it's really interesting. The other book that I got, which this is a fairly light novel, I think, is originally written in Japanese. This is by Genki Kawamura. This is If Cats Disappeared from the World. I've seen this book floating around on the net before, and I've seen people reading it, and this one was translated by Eric Selland into English. Yeah, so I guess this is a book. This book is about a guy who makes a deal with the devil, and to just have one more day to live, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and is in exchange for that to have all cats disappear, I suppose. And my expectation of this book is that it would probably contain some sort of tearjerker moment. Because, I don't know, this is just kind of like what I expect from books like this. The other one is also originally written in Japanese, translated into English by Alison Markin Powell. This is by Hiromi Kawakami, The Nakano Thrift Shop, which is about a thrift shop. A woman in a thrift shop, I guess, and how in the most general sense, how the life of that woman is changed by the things inside that thrift shop. Yeah, so that's that's the best way I could describe this book. I mean, I could also read the most general sentence in this book. In this sentence, a beguiling story of love found amid odds and ends. The Nakano Thrift Shop is a heartwarming and utterly charming novel from one of Japan's most celebrated contemporary novelists. As we all know, that's the last sentence in the blurb. It always sounds like that. So those are the Asian literature books that I got from that store. I got also another batch from a different bookseller, and I am so happy because I finally got this book, also fairly cheap. But I finally got this book. I've always been wanting to read this book for a long time now. This is Eka Kurniawan's Beauty is a Wound. This book was originally written in Indonesian, and this was translated into English by Annie Tucker. So this book is, okay, I have always been wanting to read this book, but God, I don't even know what the blurb is, like the details of the blurb. All I know is that, the first sentence of the blurb is about this beautiful Indonesian prostitute, Dewi Ayu, rises from her grave to avenge a curse placed on her family. Full stop. I just stopped at that. That's the only sentence that got me interested in reading this book. I mean, if you have someone rising up from the grave to do something, or in this case, to avenge a curse, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna want to read it, yeah. And this is one such example of that book. And also this book has magical realism. This book takes place in Indonesia, in the Malay archipelago. And I don't know, I'm just so surprised that there aren't many books taking place in Malay archipelago that use magical realism like super heavily. Because I think that this region of ours, it is like so rich with this kinds of stuff that can be rendered mundane but also at the same time fantastical. I don't know why there isn't a lot of like crafts leaning more towards this kind of style, but I don't know, this region is just so filled with materials. So much inspiration in here. And I am so keen on trying out this one because this just looks so interesting. Another one is a book from a Taiwanese author, Ting-Kuo. This is My Enemy's Cherry Tree. And this book is kind of about a man who somewhat, I don't know, reconnects with his enemy after the disappearance of his wife. And yeah, I feel like with this book there is going to be some sort of reconciliation plot. I don't know, I sound really cheesy, but yeah. This book was originally in Chinese and it was translated into English by Howard Goldblatt and Sylvia Li-Chun Lee. So yeah, this is Ting-Kuo's My Enemy's Cherry Tree. And the final book that I got from that store is this one right here, which is, I would say, something that I would not usually read because it's kind of like a thriller, and a popular thriller at that, best-selling thriller, which is certainly not something I would definitely pick up and read. But, you know, there was this offer where you kind of have to get like 3 books in order to have that offer. So, yeah, I just thought that, well, maybe I could just try this one. This is by You-Jeong. This is The Good Son, originally in Korean, and it was translated into English by Chi-Young Kim. So, yeah. I think this book is about murder, I suppose. You know, it's a thriller, and it has this kind of cover. So, yeah. Okay, more hauls. I think this is going to be the last one, the last batch. And yes, after this, no more buying books for 1 month first. Trial period. This is... Now we move on to the hardcovers because I just kind of like, I really like the hardcovers that this store is selling. And the first one that I got was Goodbye Vitamin by Rachel Kong. Now this book is a family fiction. It's about this, the father of the character, I think it's the father, who kind of have Alzheimer's. And I think this book is about how the family deals with that, how the main character deals with that. So, yeah. Next one is Alice Adams. This is Invincible Summer. Now, something about this book is that I'm not sure. I feel like it's not the kind of books that I would typically read. It is also labeled as, you know, chick lit, which, whatever that is. I mean, I know what it is, but sometimes a book that is labeled as chick lit, it somehow gives that skewed impression of it being a particular way, which I think it's kind of unfair. So, but what I want to say about this book is that it has such a lovely minimalist cover. I just love this design so much. And it is about what? It is about 4 main characters. 4 characters. 4 young women, I suppose. My gosh, the blurb is just too long. I'm not even sure what this book is about. But anyway, it looks really interesting. That's usually enough. I mean, all of these books look interesting. The next one is by Elise Valmorbida. This is The Madonna of the Mountains. And this book particular has this such a beautiful end papers. Alright, ever since I discovered BookTube, I have also discovered like the terminology of different structures in a book. Like I know that this thing is called a jacket, this thing is called a, you know, the end paper, and I mean, I don't know all of them. I don't really know what to call these, like these cloth things in here, you know, the spines and all that. So, and yeah, I know some of the things, some of the stuff you could find on the covers. Sometimes they're called French flaps. My gosh, my knowledge is increased. But anyway, back to this book. This book is about this woman. Maria Vittoria is embroidering a sheet for her dowry trunk. Her father has gone to find her a husband. He's taken his mule, a photograph, and a pack of food. Homemade sorpresa sausage called polenta, a little flask of wine, no need to take water. The world is full of water. There are no eligible men in this valley or the next one, and her father will not let her marry just anyone. And now, despite Maria's years, she is still healthy. Her betrothed will see all that. He'll be looking for a woman who can do the work. Well, I don't want to read more. I still don't know what this book is about. Apparently, the father is looking for a husband for this woman, I think. Something obviously happens in the second half of the blurb. Next one is a domestic fiction by Sri Lankan author. I think the author is Sri Lankan. Anuk Arut Pragasam. This is The Story of a Brief Marriage. And this is obviously a domestic fiction because it's about a marriage. Yes, it's about a marriage. Something happens during the marriage. There are bombings. There are armed conflicts. Oh, I wasn't aware of that, but it sounds even more interesting right now. The story. There are of course some violence in here. Something about the country, the community being torn apart by some sort of violent conflict, and it affects this marriage. So. Great stuff, I think. Great stuff. This one is something that I've been eyeing for quite a while now. This is by Hannah Kent, The Good People. And I think it's kind of interesting because this book is about 3 women. I think it's about 3 women. So it in a sense is about a domestic fiction also. So yeah, these 3 women kind of want to heal a particular character, a grandson, Michael, who cannot speak and cannot walk, and they kind of want, or at least that's the motivation, that this character to be healed through different methods. Yeah. This is what you get when I talk about what books are about if I've not read them. And the final book. Okay, the final book. This is by Elizabeth J. Church, The Atomic Weight of Love. This book is... Well, you know what? I'm just gonna be honest. The only reason I bought this book is that there are photos of images of birds in here, arranged in some sort of periodic table. I'm not even sure what this book is about. It seems like this book is taking place sometime during the World War II era, about this woman character. I don't know what happens in this book. So, with that, I end my book haul heavy Bookish avec moi video. So until then, I'll see you again in a different video. Lately I've been making just 1 video per week because I don't have much time to do other things in between. But I think this works so far, and I'll see you again in a different one. So thank you for watching. Have a nice one, and yeah, thanks again, and bye bye.